Hey there, true believers. You're tuned in to Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed, and welcome to episode 46 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I'm your host, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host. His name, of course, is Shane Murray. Shane, how you doing tonight, pal?
Uh, I don't know. This week's been weird. So, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I had a terrible week. I actually got cleared to go back to work full time off restriction, so pretty happy about that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I went to Jersey on Tuesday night, so I ended up having to have 2 days off of work to do that. So it makes me have a 3 day work week, which sounds like a great time until you realize that like I worked Monday, then had off Tuesday, Wednesday, went back this morning, and then go back tomorrow for the weekend.
Yeah, that is a little rough. What was out in Jersey?
Oh, yeah. So I went out to see the Flyers play the Devils in Newark on Tuesday night, and the Flyers won 5-1. And the two people that accompanied me to the game, one left at the second intermission, and the other one was like, "I never want to go to a Flyers Devils game with you again because the Devils lose every time." And I'm like, "That's not my fault. You're a Devils fan."
Well, hey, at least you didn't riot in Jersey that night. So,
Yeah, there was a mass exodus. Like, so I'm sitting there, and like, there's a lot of people who go to the bathroom on intermission, like the same thing as like football or halftime. And I'm like, I looked over and I was like, bro, that's a lot of bodies moving. That's more than people just going potty. Like, this is going to be a really bad third period. There's going to be like no people in this. And lo and behold, the third period comes. There is like, it's maybe like a third full. There's more empty seats than there are bodies. And it
nice.
was only 4-1 at that point. So like yeah, it ended 5-1 because we scored an empty netter, but like whatever.
Well, that's entertaining. I always find it to be rather enjoyable when places clear out.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Well, yeah, because your team was obviously kicking ass and
No, they weren't. That's the more funny part is we sucked. We only had possession of the puck for like 7 minutes in a 60-minute game. But in the 7 minutes we scored. They had possession of the puck almost the whole game. They played 23 minutes in the offensive zone and they scored one goal. We played 8 minutes collectively in their offensive zone and scored four because the empty netter actually was in our defensive zone. The defenseman threw it up in the air 150 feet lob and landed it in the goal.
that's impressive.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Well, I'm glad you had fun. I'm sorry no one else did. But
I was in Jersey, dude. I didn't have fun.
to any of our listeners in New Jersey, Shane truly meant no offense. Or maybe he did. I shouldn't speak for him. But
I think that it's a fine state to visit, not during the middle of a work week, not at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
wasn't this your Christmas gift?
Yeah. It's just what
Inconvenience.
let's just put it this way. He also said, "Yeah, I'm never gonna think about a 7 o'clock game again. We've got to make sure it's like a Saturday or Sunday matinee game." I was like, "Yeah."
Well, lessons were learned.
I got back at like 1. And then I had to get back on the schedule to get back up for work, where I get up at like 1 to go to work. So getting home at 1 is rough.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, you know who else had a rough time at an away game?
No, whom?
Well, in today's issue, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah, they had a trivial time.
If you say so. How would you like to get down to today's issue, Shane?
Let's do that.
All right, so today's issue is X-Men Annual Volume 1, Number 5, cover dated for October of 1981 and released on July 28th of 1981. Shane, normally we spend this time of the month going through a John Byrne Fantastic Four issue. However, we're changing it up a little bit right now. Do you remember why?
The story takes place right after the story we just finished in the Burn run, I think, or something like that.
Yes, it is the latest canonical appearance after Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 235, which we covered back in episode 41. So yeah, after a couple weeks ago for our April Fool's episode, doing Alpha Flight Volume 1, Number 4, which was written and drawn by John Byrne, I kind of thought maybe we should switch things up and we could do this tale, still stay in sequence, but not written or drawn by John. So the cover price on today's book was 75 cents. Shane, I, as always, hopped onto pricecharting.com prior to our recording today and looked up various values of what this book is sold for at maximum. You know what time it is?
Oh yeah, the Shane Showcase.
That's right, it is time for the Shane Showcase. Mr. Murray, would you be able to give your best guess as to what an ungraded direct market copy of this book has sold for at maximum?
Uh, $4.25.
So I am not going to say that you're, well, okay, you're off by a bit on the scale of things. The correct answer is $15.
That
How
seems
about
like a lot.
how about a graded 9.8 direct market copy? How much do you think that has sold for at maximum?
Um, $76.82.
Would you like to try again?
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna put you on the cold scale with this. You're on the low side.
I'm on the low side.
You're on the low side.
Really?
Yep.
147.50.
Nope. Still low. I'm gonna give you one more go of it.
Uh, 209 even.
$630.
For this? Did I miss something in this?
So, what I am seeing here is that this was a signature series Stan Lee signed copy that was sold via Heritage Auctions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm like, there's no way this book's worth 600 bucks. Everyone in this book we know they've talked to the people before.
You got to
It's not like
remember, Archon's in demand.
even if Archon's in demand, it's
I'm
not
not I'm
600.
not serious.
I I I figured that, but I'm just saying like even if Archon was in demand, it's still not $600.
All right. Well, we are still not done playing this game. How much do you think an ungraded newsstand copy of this has sold for at maximum, Shane?
Ooh. Ungraded. It was 15 for the. Let's go with 21 even.
You're over, but not by much. $19.
Okay. I was gonna go under 20, but I thought maybe.
And how about a graded 9.8 newsstand copy?
Um, I'm assuming it's not signed by Stanley, so I'm gonna say that this one is supposed to be where it's supposed to be, and I am going to go back to like I don't know, $91.
$245.
That's still much better than 600.
You know, there are times that I wish we had a video component to this podcast, and frankly, most of those times are when you're guessing prices and they are so much higher than you expected them to be.
Dude, so we were at the shop today talking about first appearance of Tombstone, seeing that Tombstone's supposed to be in the new movie, blah blah blah.
Right.
Do you know what the first appearance of Tombstone is?
Well, it's an issue of Amazing Spider-Man, is it not?
Nope.
Spectacular?
Nope. It's
Web of
Web.
Spider-Man. Web of
hmm
Spider-Man. Okay, cool. I was just going to keep going down the
Yeah, yeah,
Spider-Man
yeah, yeah.
titles in chronological order
Yeah, yeah.
until we
So
got there.
it's Web 36 and he is in like two pages or two panels. That book right now, if you're interested, is like $40.
But we're thinking it's going to spike when Brand New Day drops in theaters.
I am saying that generally how it seems to go.
You'd be surprised. Lately, it's been touch and go with that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this isn't what's it called? That's literally what the actual book value is in the
Overstreet Guide.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't think the name was not coming to me.
It's all right.
You'd think I flipped through it enough that I would know, but I can barely remember my own name some days.
Trust me, we all know. Okay, so the credits for today's issue we have writer Chris Claremont, penciler Brent Anderson, who also happened to be the creative team behind what many consider to be the greatest X-Men story ever told, which is God Loves Man Kills. They are joined by Bob McLeod on inks, Glennis Wine on colors, Tom Orzechowski on lettering. Editor was Louise Jones, or as many of you may know her today, Louise Simonson. And the editor in chief was Jim Shooter. Shane, would you like to hear a synopsis of today's issue?
I was wondering about this morning. Is there a synopsis or is there going to be a shanopsis for this
No, there is a
nonsense?
synopsis.
Awesome.
However, yeah, well, I'll read it. The X-Men versus the hordes of the Badoon. When a galactic threat looms over the Merry Mutants, the team calls in the aid of experts, the Fantastic Four. Meanwhile, Storm can't shake her feelings for Archon and her need to end the battles in his home world. Can the X-Men and the Fantastic Four usher in an age of peace between two warring alien races? Shane, how do you feel about this synopsis?
Not great. Seeing that yeah, not great.
Seeing as how it's not accurate to the story?
Yeah.
I was curious because as I was having read the book and then reading this, I was like, wow, these are two totally separate stories that are being told and pitched.
Someone didn't read the book before they wrote the synopsis.
Yeah. All right. So, with today's issue, we're doing something a little different that we haven't done since episode 9 when we covered Superman Fantastic Four, The Infinite Destruction. We are doing what we refer to as a foreshortened version of this story. So, as opposed to our normal panel by panel dramatization, what we will be doing is Shane and I are going to be dividing this book up about every 5 pages or so. And we are just going to summarize those pages as we go along because it is a little bit of a longer story. And also, I don't know if my voice can handle being the Fantastic Four, six X-Men, and several Badoon and Archon. So call it what you will. I'm giving myself a break this week. We hope you'll enjoy it nonetheless. Shane, the cover of today's book is by Brent Anderson and Jim Novak. Would you like to go ahead and take us through that, please?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a cool cover. You have the Marvel's Comics group across the top. Obviously it says number 5, 75 cents. You have a cool corner box with the X-Men in it. So you have it of the X-Men that are in it, you have Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Kitty, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops. You get where you would usually see where it would say like Uncanny or anything above X-Men, it says King Size Annual going down. Then you have the X-Men lettering in that very famous 3D boxed font. And then you get down to where all of the fun action is. You get Storm. You can see that she's like calling the winds behind her. It goes all the way up to the top of the page. You have Sue sending out little force bubbles, knocking down one of the Badoon. You have the thing ready to clobber what looks like a Badoon off panel. You have Johnny just, it looks like blasting the ground underneath one of the Badoon. Logan giving one a nice 1-2 with some claws. Cyclops blasting one off panel. Nightcrawler looks like he's about to poof into another somewhere else.
Excuse
Uh,
me. Excuse me. I believe the correct term is BAMF.
yeah, it is. It's Banff. I was not want to use Banff, but yes, Banff somewhere else. Um, you got Reed above him with this giant uppercut that he knocked out one of the Badoon with. It's actually a really cool way they did that because like his arm flattens out and then his fist is like it's just a really cool angle on that fist punch. And then you have Kitty in the middle. Just I don't think they knew what to do with Kitty. And you have Colossus having one of the Badoons up in his arms, ready to get absolutely walloped.
He's got him in like a chokehold of some sort, it looks like.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's I would not want to get hit by Colossus if he's holding me by the throat. Like like your head's coming off, right? Like let's be honest.
And we've got the caption, which has the title of our story, which is Ooh La La Badoon, co-starring the Fantastic Four. Enough said. And we open our book to be greeted with Stanley presents The Uncanny X-Men. And Shane, before we go any further, I'm going to ask you, who's your favorite X-Men?
I would always used to say that it was Wolverine, and I think over the years and years and years, it's definitely has become Magic. You know that I have like a quite the I don't even know what you want to say.
Affinity?
Yeah, affinity for Magic. I like Magic. I like the whole Magic stick, which is ironic because she uses a sword as a magic stick. So, oh yeah, who's yours, bud? I'm sure yours hasn't changed.
Oh, mine's Cyclops, hands down.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
People tell me I'm wrong all the time. I like Scott Summers. He's a character with many flaws and a very interesting character because of it.
I mean, the one thing that you can be said about any of the Summer Boys is there would be no X-Men books without them because they're all driven by the fact that one of the Summer Boys did something silly somewhere along the way.
Oh, to say nothing of Charles Xavier.
That'll come up in this uh later on. Don't you worry.
And we are greeted with a splash page when we open up as Reed is working on a device along with Johnny and Ben, and Sue, dressed in a white blouse and a pink apron, comes in and is complaining that no one is joining her for the dinner that she slaved over all afternoon. Instead, they've all been distracted working on Reed's device. After thoroughly admonishing all three and threatening them to just order pizza instead, she's confronted by Franklin, who lets her know that there's an alert coming from Reed's security system, basically saying that there is an attack happening at the front of their building. Feeling remorseful for his forgetfulness, Reed sneaks up on Sue and she informs him of this issue. And Reed advises Johnny to fly down to the street below to see what's happening outside while the rest of the team heads to the Fantastic Car and will join him shortly. It's then that we meet a Shi'ar woman by the name of Desindri, who is fleeing down the street armed with some sort of pistol. Onlookers confused by the situation as she is firing erratically at them. In fact, she literally takes out the boombox of one of the onlookers, nearly strikes another, and she seeks cover behind a vehicle as we see from out of nowhere, there are just energy blasts firing at her. Through the scope of her gun, we can see that she is being pursued by three Badoon aliens. And Shane, I didn't have you do this on the cover, but I'm gonna have you do it now. Can you describe what the Badoon look like?
Sure, they are a lizard folk. I don't know how else really would. So they stand up like a human. They're like a humanoid with like a lizard head. They have a lot of sharp teeth. They have very futuristic guns, and they wear essentially like full metal spacesuits.
And as she takes aim to try and get a good shot at these invisible Badoon, Johnny flies onto the scene and begins hurling fireballs at her. She manages to dodge out of the way, but Johnny, of course, being unaware of the assailants, just thinks that there is an active shooter situation going on. The rest of the four show up in the Fantastic Car momentarily, where Johnny fills them in on the situation and that no one has been hurt, but that situation cannot last, and he suggests that the Fantastic Four deal with Descendry fast. Meanwhile, the alien Badoon identify who the Fantastic Four are and continue to take fire at Descendry as Reed and Ben also attempt to subdue her. In the confusion, Descendry fires off a shot at a Badoon but strikes Ben instead, and in the shock of which opens her up for Reed to be able to wrap her up within his pliable arms. And then Descendry collapses to the ground. She has been wounded, but I think this is more so out of sheer exhaustion. And as she falls, Descendry makes mention that she is in search of Charles Xavier. And then what happens next, Shane?
After the Reed has her basically in custody there on the ground as she's like, as you said, exhausted. The Badoon, which they still can't see yet, says that she's said enough and actually executes her on the spot, which I was surprised that they actually showed how close that gun was to her head.
Yeah, that's intense.
That's not something you usually see. And then right after that, you get the rest of the Badoon all firing on the FF, which the only one that's able to like protect themselves from these blasts is Sue. She is able to put out a force field quickly enough to protect herself. Conveniently, she in that force field wraps up Descendry's pistol that she had there. So while she's laying on the ground in that force field, she can actually now look through the scope and see the invisible Badoon that was hunting her down and then decided to take the pot shots at the rest of the four. Just as that happens, the cops show up and the patrol decided not to try to fire on the cops because they figure that they're just going to be keep more and more coming and eventually they might even hit them though they're invisible. So they take the three boys of the Fantastic Four and leave Sue by herself. Where the cops come in and they start to be like, there's obviously a unconscious slash dead person on the ground, and they saw the rest of the FF on the ground. So they want to take Sue in for questioning, obviously, and she's not having any of that. So she obviously just turns invisible and gets out of there. Which the one thing in here that made me laugh, because we bring up the fact that they do weird things with Franklin all the time, was that she's like, first I have to go get Franklin so he's not home alone. I'm like, well,
Which he is home alone now.
correct. I'm like, okay, let's just bypass that part. But it's fine. So then we go to the next page after Sue says she's going to go get Franklin and go see Xavier. And we are brought to like a split splash page. On one side, you have Archon with Storm, and Storm's firing out some blasts. And you have Kitty and Colossus up at the top, and they have a bunch of Badoon all over the ground. And Colossus is about to throw one, and you have Cyclops, and he's throwing off blasts. And you have Nightcrawler at the bottom shooting one of the blasters. And you have Logan just doing Logan things, tearing stuff up with his claws. And the next thing you know, they're like overwhelmed by the Badoon, and that wakes up Storm, and she's really bothered by this. It's been happening for a couple nights at this point. So she goes downstairs to like cool her nerves. And she's sitting in the kitchen and she feels like a presence. So she opens the door with the wind because why not just go open the door knob? I don't know. And Sue enters with Franklin and she instantly collapses as she comes through that door. After Moira McTaggart has successfully, got Sue taken care of, they bring her back upstairs where all the rest of the X-Men and Xavier are all in the living room, and you have Colossus playing with Franklin with planes, and the plane sizes are drastically different for the two of them. But Sue then tells them the story of the Shiar and how the Badoon are threatening Lilindra, uh, that the Shiar's main goal was to get to the Earth and tell Xavier because of the fact that they were threatening Lilindra. And Xavier is very upset by this because that is the he likes to call her sometimes the love of his life. So he decides that he's going to send out what X-Men are in the mansion to go see if they can help solve this problem with the Badoon and Archon.
So, with Xavier having made this decision, Sue does proclaim that she will be accompanying the X-Men to Archon's world. Kitty, at this point in time, is obsessively trying on new costumes. She begs the professor for the opportunity to go on the mission, which he grants, and she goes to change into a new costume. Shane, what does this uniform, for lack of a better term, look like?
Oh, this uniform's amazing. What are you talking about? She has a gold headpiece with these gold bracelets and a poncho cape that goes into a gold neck piece, and she's wearing pink tights with a brighter pink suit over top of it, like bodysuit over top of it. And she has these awesomely gold ankle bracelets, also anklet. I don't know if you would want to call them anklets, something like that, with a gold belt with the X-Men symbol in it. It's very kitty. It looks like what a teenager would dream up if they wanted to be a fashionista.
And yeah, everyone's reactions to this is, well, snickering, I think is a generous term. Xavier sends her back upstairs to change. Sue recommends calling in the Avengers, and Cyclops states that he has already tried. So instead, they decide to press forward without them as too much time has already elapsed. Utilizing golden lightning bolts provided by Archon, they are able to travel to Archon's world, which I believe Archon's world is called Pulmachus. And when the X-Men arrive there in a flash of lightning, they are greeted by one of Archon's warriors, Sasha. And Shane, can you describe Sasha to us?
She is dressed like a warrior. She is in a full bodysuit. She's got all kinds of stuff strapped to her. She's got a little short sword there behind her. She's got a little blaster on her side. Has this long blonde hair. And then so many metal bracers. Like apparently Kitty designed all of her jewelry for her.
And she is standing in the ruin and is greeted with an embrace by Storm. And she informs the X-Men and Sue that the Brotherhood of the Badoon have actually conquered Pulmachus and taken captive Archon. She also informs them of Desindri having been sent from Pulmachus to warn Xavier of this invasion. This news puts Sue into a tizzy, for lack of a better term. She is comforted by Cyclops. Sasha then informs the team that all of the cities on Pulmachus are now in Badoon hands, and that all of the rebellion forces are under the command of Archon's warlord. She pitches the plan that Storm, who is revered as a demigoddess on Pulmachus, lead the X-Men to liberate Archon, and that he could then rouse the entire populace into revolt and overwhelm the Badoon. So, for a little backstory, the X-Men first met Archon and his people, I believe 2 years prior in X-Men Annual Volume 1, Number 3. Wolverine's skeptical of this situation, which upsets Sasha, but he just informs her that he's being a realist and that Cyclops is also a realist. He's just too polite to inform them of the odds. Sue reminds them that they're not alone in this endeavor, for they have her and, should they free them, the rest of the Fantastic Four, and that they can always go back for the Avengers. Sasha then proceeds to inform the group that the Badoon invaded through a Stargate that they can teleport on and off world from. Their main base is away from the capital city in the Wildlands. She also informs them that them having taken over the Citadel, they are not allowing male humans inside, but they will accept female human prisoners. The more beautiful, the better. Cyclops devises a plan wherein Storm and Sue will infiltrate the palace, while Kitty, and Colossus will be their backup in case there is obvious trouble. And Sasha, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine will travel to the Wildlands and put the Stargate out of commission. Wolverine claims it's a suicide mission, which is ironic because he's the one member of the team that has healing powers. Cyclops informs him that there is no other option and that they need to strike hard and fast to cripple and isolate the garrison and therefore improve the chances of Sashia's revolt. Sashia then proceeds to take Sue and Storm to have more appropriate clothing for selling themselves as prisoners.
So the next little, if you want to, this book's broken up into kind of chapters.
Uh,
We say kind of chapters because there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason why they have these titles in there. But anyway, it starts out with saying that, and now Armageddon, and we cut to inside the palace, and you have Brother Royal already going to interrogate Reed.
Brother Royal is the leader of the Badoon.
You have Johnny in a specialized chamber, you have Ben in a specialized chamber, and you have Reed in a specialized chamber. They have them all prisoner and pinned in ways so that they couldn't use their powers against the Badoon. And then Johnny and Ben tell him that he'll never get anything out of them because Reed will never talk. And as they're doing that, you see a literally beaten Archon strapped to the wall also. And Brother Royal says he'll get it out of him one way or the other, and just automatically he turns the machine on to start forcing Reed to talk by just it looks like electronic pulses going through him as Reed begins to scream out in pain. And right as this happens is when Sue and Storm get to the outside of the palace, and Sue hears Reed call out, and she wants to rush in, and Storm stops her and is like, "Hey, we have to do this. We have to be calm, cool, and collective about this, or this whole thing will go awry from the get-go." So Storm talks her down. They walk up. The guards go to stop them, and they say that they're entering the palace as entertainment. So the guard rips off their white coats to reveal Sue and Storm's new attire that they got from Sasha. And the guards approve of it and let them through. And then have one of the worst lines in this whole book where they say about, let us pray, brother, that when he's finished with them, they will still be capable of entertaining us with quotation marks.
Gross.
Yeah, not great. So then you cut out to binoculars, but these are like super binoculars. They have like readings and graphs and charts. Sasha is looking out down at the Stargate and pointing out to Nightcrawler and Wolverine what they will be facing going forward, trying to shut down the Stargate. Nightcrawler says that he could teleport there. It'll just take him a couple jumps. And Sasha is like, well, that's cool because I can cast an illusion spell on me and Logan, and we can just walk in looking like Badoon. So Logan is still not having any of this and is very irritated about this whole plan. But he still goes along with it and just flings his cigar out to the wilds, and they go sliding down the mountain.
Meanwhile, back at the Citadel, the Brother Royal is way too busy putting his hands all over Sue as Storm gives him the side eye. Sue is obviously repulsed by this, and while doing this, he feels the need to show them that they are torturing males, in this case, Reed, and this causes Sue to lose her cool, and she unleashes an invisible force field that slams the Brother Royal against the wall. Storm is not happy that Sue lost her cool, but conjures up a maelstrom of wind to throw about a half dozen of the Badoon away from herself and Susan. Sue pulls a trick that she recently showcased in an issue of the Burn Fantastic Four run, where she makes her costume visible. Apparently, she was wearing it underneath the, for lack of a better term, Arabian Nights fantasy getup that she was wearing. And Storm then proceeds to cover their escape with some mist. Outside, Cyclops, Colossus, and Kitty hear the alarms go off and ditch the cloaks that they were using to disguise their costumes and rush towards the front gate. Cyclops nails the Badoon guards with optic blasts as Colossus and himself then manage to completely shatter the doors with a katham, much to Kitty's surprise. In the meantime, the Brother Royal has refound his footing and he unleashes a creature known as the Monster of Badoon to combat the invaders. Shane, can you describe the Monster of Badoon for us?
The monster Badoon is unlike any of the other Badoons. He, one, is orange and not green. Two, he's wearing a faceplate that has like a jack-o'-lantern face, like opening to it, where it has like big tooth, no tooth, big tooth, little no tooth. And it's got these purple pants, no shirt, and has these weird like gloves that let his two regular fingers come out and then his thumb come out. It's really weird, but he is a massive brute and he is ready to do some destruction.
While out in the wildlands, Nightcrawler finishes teleporting across the landscape and is now in the air over top of the Badoon army. And he takes out two of them by crashing down on their heads and then manages to flip one into a fourth and then somersaults onto the ground to confront the remaining two, having picked up one of the fallen guard's blasters. However, those remaining two happen to be Wolverine and Sasha in disguise, and they have to drop the disguise to prevent Nightcrawler from blowing them away. So now revealed, Sasha uses her combat knight to eliminate a Badoon guard, thinking that they have actually taken care of the threat, only for Wolverine to inform her that they are being flanked on all sides by what looks to be about 100 of these Badoon. Back in the Citadel's dungeon, Sue uses her invisibility and knocks out one of the Badoon dungeon guards with an orb that was hanging on the wall. She then picks up his blaster and eliminates the other two guards. Storm follows her into the room and uses her lightning powers to shatter the restraints that are holding Johnny, Ben, and Archon, thus freeing them. And Johnny and Ben immediately take the fight to the Badoon. Meanwhile, Sue tends to Reed, who is still in a very weakened and groggy state, thinking that just hearing Sue's voice may be some sort of Badoon trick. However, what happens?
Reed looks up and then realizes that it's actually Sue. And Sue starts to get him out of his straps and all that stuff. And Reed and her have a big embrace. It looks like he wraps his arms around her about 7,000 times, like he was afraid he was never going to see her again. And then Storm flies over to Archon, who is now on the ground, and he is afraid that he's not able to walk. So she goes over to give him a hand to get up. As this is happening, Brother Royal and some of his guards all come in there and they all start complaining about the mammals and the Badoon hunters will make sure that they kill all of them and maybe not just all of them, but maybe all of the mammals on the planet. And as this is about to happen, that's when reinforcements come in. Colossus, Cyclops, and Kitty start making their way through the hallway. And just about as they're getting to where they need to be to start helping out, the monster of Badoon shows up and it grabs Colossus by the arm and throws him, just whips him with a wham right through a wall. Then Cyclops gets him with an eye blast. And then the monster Badoon seems to be able to cast its own kind of blasts out of its those hand glove things. It seems to keep wanting to try to attack as it's pushing on Kitty, but Kitty keeps herself intangible so that none of the blasts or anything is working. So she keeps moving through walls and stuff. So she tricks him into walking through the wall. The wall collapses and the ceiling collapses on top of him. And she obviously was phased out, so none of it affected her. She goes to get out of the ground and starts walking across the top. And as she was doing that, she heard a rumble behind her and realized that the monster Badoon was there to come out. And just in time, before he can do anything to hurt Kitty, Peter comes flying out of where he was at, to hit him with a flying left hand.
Peter being Colossus.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Colossus comes Colossus comes flying out of there and hits him with a giant left hand, knocks him out. And Colossus is like, "Oh, he's trying to hit me with bolts, but this won't be enough." So Colossus picks him up, and the two of them kind of blast their way with the hand blast and all out of the palace and go sailing all the way across town, and they land on the outside on the outskirts of it.
I have to say, these four panels are incredible here at the bottom of this page, where you literally see the perspective of looking down as Colossus and the monster Badoon wrestle with each other while falling what I believe Claremont says is from over a mile high. Absolutely incredible stuff.
Oh yeah. Um, you get Kitty looking out through the where they fell out of the palace, and she's very concerned that he is hurt. Then we see this giant crater, and only one of the two that fell down walk out of it, and it is Colossus, and he is missing most of his uniform at this point, but he is not to be undeterred. He is going to help the rest of the X-Men. And cutting back to the Stargate, we have Sasha and Wolverine just trying to get through all of these Badoon that just are all around them. And you can see that Nightcrawler is just teleporting around and just trying to shoot them where he'd hit them and then move and hit them and move. You can see his little teleportation marks through all the background. I like that as a good way to show that he's controlling at least trying to help control the sheer numbers that are going around the three of them.
But they are slowly being overwhelmed, and Wolverine does reiterate that they need to destroy the Stargate. So Nightcrawler again begins to teleport through this crowd of Batoon, blasting them with their own weapons, and finally just opens up with said blaster into the Stargate itself, which goes up in a massive pink explosion that is seen from miles away by Archon's warlord, who then uses that as the signal to launch the attack. And we see Archon's ground troops, both on foot and mounted on what look to be large dinosaur-esque lizards, as well as a couple of aircraft, zoom towards the Citadel. One of the Badoon confronts the Brother Royal to let him know that the Stargate has been destroyed and that the primary base is being overrun. And when he informs the Brother Royal that the humans are still alive, the Brother Royal declares him a traitor and shoots him because how dare someone bring him word of defeat? Still down in the dungeons, the Fantastic Four, along with Cyclops, Kitty Pryde, Storm, and Archon, are still wailing away on Badoon. While even further down into the palace, Colossus has made his way back inside and is fighting his way through a horde of Badoon all by himself, and comes to the conclusion that they must be guarding something. Reed discerns that this battle that has been going on for quite some time now can only be made possible by the fact that Badoon weaponry is powered by some sort of on-site generator. Archon lets him know that the Badoon had sealed off the catacombs beneath his palace and constructed a huge generator there. Cyclops remarks that the resistance is such that they won't be able to get down to those catacombs anytime soon, while Ben then proceeds to smash out the wall in order to expedite their trip. As he continues punching his way through walls and floors, Sue puts the rest of the team, aside from Johnny, who is flying, into a force bubble to allow them quick access to the catacombs. Once they reach the lowest level, they find Colossus, who has just got a ton of Badoon at his feet. He has the remaining one locked in a chokehold, and he is about to clobber them square in the face. This is when a holographic image of the Brother Royal appears, who tells our heroes that he has engaged the self-destruct for the generator. Reed devises a plan to get into the CPU to shut things down, but he needs the help of everyone else to be able to execute it. So there are two firing elements that are coming together, and Ben and Colossus both put their muscle into keeping them apart. Meanwhile, Storm creates a blizzard to cool down the reactor, while Johnny actually creates a localized heat field to keep Reed from freezing to death. With his arm still stretched out inside the machine, Reed has Sue produce a force field tube that follows where his arm is, and then has Cyclops fire his optic blast down said tube into the generator, and it manages to blast square into its heart and halt the chain reaction that was going to destroy them all.
So then we get Archon leading back the X-Men and the Fantastic Four to his people, where I don't, I feel, this is one part that bothers me, is that he says that he single-handedly saved their world from, what did he say exactly? I myself slew their craven brother royal as he tried to flee. Okay, bud. You feel better about yourself. Anyway, so we go back. Nightcrawler is in a gurney, absolutely just messed up. Wolverine has lost half of his suit from when the Stargate exploded. Turns out that after Nightcrawler shot the Stargate and got it to explode, he made sure to teleport and grab Sasha and Logan or Wolverine and get out of there. I really got to stop saying their first names.
Kind of.
It's so hard. I have so much X-Men up there. But the Vizier says that it's no problem and he'll be able to fix Nightcrawler in no time. We cut to I don't know if it's like a few hours later. It's got to be a good bit of time because Nightcrawler is now healed at this point, and they're having a feast to embrace the fact that they have got rid of the Badoon threat and everyone is safe again.
How do you like Wolverine's uniform? Or it's not a uniform, but Wolverine's attire, I should say.
They tried to make it close to what his uniform would look like, I guess.
And how about Cyclops?
Cyclops's was I don't understand that one. That one, it's just a robe, I guess. I don't know. All right, so Cyclops is wearing like a white, or not white, a yellow robe with a red belt, and still has his headpiece on because apparently he didn't travel with like glasses or something to make sure that he didn't need to have the headpiece on. And then Wolverine has this bodysuit that is yellow and browns, but it's like a full thing where he has these orange boots with yellow stripes at the top and brown pants with a yellow mustard colored bodysuit over top of it. And then you have Nightcrawler in his very red Roman garb, it looks like there, with while they're hanging all over Sasha in her pink dress.
There's a lot of fun things happening in this panel. I like the fact that you have Reed and Sue. You know, it's obvious neither one of them thought they were going to see each other again. They're sitting there hand in hand, just gazing into each other's eyes. You have Johnny flirting with what looks to be a server. Though I think my favorite is the Warriors cheering on as Ben and Colossus have engaged in an arm wrestling competition, including a couple of them squabbling over money.
Yeah, that is well, we get there going to the next page. They're at one victory apiece. So They're going for best two out of three, and Colossus and the Thing put their hands together and they get ready to do it. One of the warriors is putting his hand over there to make sure that they have a good fair fight. And just right after he released his hand and they're going to have their arm wrestling contest, Kitty calls out to Colossus and distracts him in her new garb that Sasha helped her get dressed up in. And it distracts Colossus to much to Ben's chagrin as he gets to win a very easy victory to go two out of three. Colossus is like so enamored with Kitty, and Kitty's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I made you lose." And Ben is like, huh, I don't think you made him lose. He looks like he got exactly what he wanted in this whole situation. And then Archon goes searching for Storm, and he finds her out on the balcony, and they have a very touching conversation about that they both feel very strongly for one another, but they both also feel very strongly for who they represent and have to like they help, and neither one could ask the other one to give up who they want to protect so that they could live in each other's embrace for the rest of their lives. They take their jobs too seriously as protectors of the others to give up uh they put helping others in front of their own happiness. Then we leave the story with them all having like a big cheer and chant and probably a giant toast to Archon, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men.
The end. All right, Shane. How did you feel about X-Men Annual Volume 1, number 5?
I had a lot of fun with it. There was choices that were made that were very 80s, so I had to not let myself fall into the trap of being like, this is stop doing this because I'm like, this was written way before, and they were not thinking about it was going to get analyzed 40 years later, 45 years later, right? 81.
Yeah, by two meatheads such as us.
So, how'd you feel about it?
It wasn't a bad little story. It's primarily an X-Men tale, but it is cool to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four get thrust into more or less what is a sword and sorcery world. I mean, there is definitely some super science to it as well, but it feels more sword and sorcery than anything else. And I dig on that. Even
Yeah,
if Archon is maybe my least favorite barbarian in comics.
that's fair.
But moving on to our Fantastic Four of the week, Shane, you actually start first with Fantastic Frame. So, what was your favorite panel?
We're gonna go one page back, and we're gonna go to 38 panel 4. The arm wrestling contest where Colossus sees Kitty in her new get up for the first time, and you can just see that he's absolutely infatuated with her. And Ben's just having a whole good time of like just seeing kids in love and just loving the, you know, Ben's here to make sure everyone else is happy. And that was like he got his happiness by winning, but he's also like, oh, look at these kids.
It is a fun panel.
What is yours, bud?
So, mine, we are going to go with the splash page on page 37. So, a page back from this one. I am a sucker for a cool sword and sorcery tinged victory celebration. And you have very nice character moments for everyone involved, especially the Fantastic Four, like I said, between Reed and Sue being reunited and Johnny flirting with the waitress and Ben chomping on a cigar and arm wrestling Colossus. I mean, that's pretty cool. This definitely gets extra points from me also because of the fact that Wolverine and Cyclops look absolutely ridiculous. Cyclops wearing his full mask and visor with that yellow tunic that has the red belt is hilarious. And Wolverine looks like your uncle after shopping at a Ben's warehouse that was out of a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it's it's a good time. And then you have Archon sitting on his throne in the midst of it all looking contemplative. It's just a real fun time. I mean, that's what made me happy, but enough about that. Let's talk about my grim grumbling.
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
big on Sue's characterization in like the whole issue.
In the whole issue? Okay.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you why it's especially bothers me is because Chris Claremont's run on X-Men over 16 years is often acclaimed for its portrayal of strong women and like has been cited as passing the Bechdel test on multiple occasions. Are you familiar with the Bechdel test, Shane?
No, but you've brought it up on multiple occasions. I
Okay. So I'll elaborate here. So the Bechdel test is like a test that measures how feminist a piece of literature is. And to pass the Bechdel test, you need to have a conversation between two women about something other than a man, and one of the women has to be named. There are numerous conversations between Sue and, well, particularly Storm in this issue, where it's only her talking about Reed, Johnny, Ben, or all three. And I get she is the only female member of the Fantastic Four and whatnot, but she seems less like the Sue Storm that John Byrne had established in the 4 or 5 issues that he'd done on his regular book, which was a stronger, more even keel character than what we got here, which felt like a regression more closely tied to what Stan Lee was doing from what we'd been reading. Fun thing about the Bechdel test, though, um, is that by those rules established, something that passes the Bechdel test is the conversation at the beginning of the song "Baby Got Back," which means that because you have two women talking about
yeah.
something other than a man, and one of them, Becky, is named, just goes to show you that Sir Mix-a-Lot is a feminist icon. But yeah, it's just the fact that, it seems like a step backward for Sue characterization wise. And that's what bothered me most this time around.
Fair. I can see that.
How about you?
So, like, the Fantastic Four know who Xavier is, right?
Yeah,
He's not like a random person coming to steal their kid. Not that it's what he does, but you know what I mean.
I mean,
So,
it's kind
like,
of what he does.
but like, Sue was like, you know what? I'm not gonna leave my kid alone. I'm gonna go to space and leave Franklin with Xavier. Nothing goes wrong with Xavier. You literally just had an alien show up on your door. What? That you couldn't like go downstairs and find a neighbor in the Baxter building and be like, "Hey, man, I know I hate to put this on you, but can you do me a solid? I'll be back in 2 days."
Because that's normal.
Well, then you know, like, if you're living in the Baxter building, you obviously know who the Fantastic Four is. Like, I'm pretty sure most of the people will be like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine, whatever." Or like, where's Herbie? Herbie could watch the kid for freaking 2 days.
At this point in continuity, Herbie had been destroyed. And I think we are pre Agatha. No, we're not. We're not pre Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness got brought in beforehand. So, I mean, I don't know what she was doing at this point. I'm sure we'll find out.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of options that do not involve giving your small child to Charles Xavier.
This is true.
And I love the X-Men, but I would never let Charles Xavier watch my children.
That's completely fair. Well, speaking of things that put you on the edge of your seat, what was your cosmic cliffhanger?
Page 29, panel 7.
Huh, really?
Oh, is that yours also?
So I actually listed mine as page 29, panels 4 through 7. When Colossus and the monster of Badoon take the long fall and they literally hit the ground with such impact that it causes a small mushroom cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, the mushroom cloud. I was like, yeah, nothing better than moral peril.
Yeah, mortal peril indeed, but it's just so like I said, the perspective on this is just amazing where you see in panel 4, Colossus is literally on top of the monster Badoon wrestling with him, and then in the next panel, the monster Badoon has flipped over and Colossus is underneath him. Like literally throughout those first 3 panels, Brent Anderson does a fantastic job of just illustrating the tumbling through space, and then you have the impact and you feel it. Like it's we can sit here all day and talk about sound effects and everything, but there are very few panels that I have felt the impact in my bones like I have felt watching these 4 come together.
That's fair. This is it's a great perspective shot, the four panels together.
And you wouldn't be, I wouldn't blame anybody at all if they expected to turn the page and see that, just the monster Badoon and Colossus are lying in a big hole and Colossus is just out of the fight, right? But, really put some
Not
respect on Colossus' name here.
not my boy. My boy isn't gonna go out with a like that. He don't go down like that. So that does bring up our most fantastic player for the week. Who is yours, bud?
So my MFP this week is actually Colossus. Went and picked him because he breaks down the door at the palace with Cyclops. He takes out the monster of Badoon. When he goes back to the palace after he gets up from that tremendous fall, he has the wherewithal to recognize that something is being guarded there at the catacombs, and he dismantles all the defenses around the generator single-handedly. And then he assists Ben with keeping those firing elements from coming together, and that allows Reed, Sue, and Cyclops to actually destroy the reactor. So yeah, by my tally, he did the most, and what he did had the most effect.
Yeah, I he was my one of two, but I still ended up going with one other one. I have Nightcrawler
Okay, another
because
respectable choice.
Nightcrawler destroyed the Stargate, and then he still had the wherewithal after blowing it up to make sure that he got Sasha and Logan away from the blast so that they didn't perish. Because he could have just blew it up and then bolted himself out of there. But Nightcrawler being Nightcrawler, he's going to save as many people as he can because that is who he is. And that stops them from being able to bring any of the Badoon from their home planet over to make sure that they could get reinforcements. So that was my big one. That stopped a whole second invasion coming wave coming in, which let them be able to take care of what was there on the planet.
Respectable choice. Well, true believers, if you yourselves would like to check out this story in full, has been reprinted a couple times. First in Essential X-Men Volume 3 in August of 1998. Those essential collections were reprinted in black and white on newsprint paper. It was also reprinted in Marvel Masterworks, The Uncanny X-Men Volume 7 in January of 2011, Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 2 in April 2014, and X-Men Epic Collection Volume 8, titled I, Magneto, in November of 2021. You can also find it on Marvel Unlimited or in the back issue bin of your local comic shop. Shane, you know what we're doing next week?
No. Um,
We've talked about it for a while, and I think it's time we
yeah,
finally
we
pull the
didn't
trigger on it.
we didn't jump into Simonson.
Yeah, we've been screwing around in the early 80s for a while. Now we're going to hop about 8 years into the future and tackle Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 334 by Walt Simonson and Rich Buckler. And fans of the MCU Disney Plus shows, I think, will be happy because Walt Simonson is responsible for introducing a number of concepts that have gone into the MCU multiverse saga. So, might be pretty fun to explore those, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. I am excited to go into there because I don't think I've ever even touched any of the Simonson Fantastic Four stuff.
Well, he spent about 2 years on the title, so we've got some ground to cover, and I'm sure we'll bounce around here and there. As always, true believers, your feedback is important to us. We would highly appreciate it if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or a comment or a review on Spotify. You can subscribe to us on your preferred listening platform so we show up in your feed each and every week. We are on Facebook at the Fantastic Four Fancast, where we encourage you to engage in FF related discussions and share Fantastic Four content. We only ask that you adhere to our group rules and that you are respectful of your fellow group members. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fan4Fancast. That is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. Finally, you can contact us by email with any feedback or suggestions at fan4fancast@gmail.com. Again, that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST@gmail.com. Shane, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to leave the true believers with this week?
Yeah, we did this as a foreshortened one, not our usual like all the word bubbles. I've read some lines that I had some issues with, but this is a very pretty book. And even with us talking about like the Colossus and monster falling out of the palace, that doesn't do justice to like the art. And I am always going to preach, please go read this book.
And I will second that. Brent Anderson, no slouch of an artist whatsoever. And you check this out, you decide you like that pairing of Claremont and Anderson, and maybe you want to learn a little bit more about the X-Men, go read God Loves Man Kills. It's kind of the magnum opus for both of them.
Yeah, go read God Loves Man Kills, and then you're gonna want to read more X-Men, and then you'll be doing X-Men for the next 1,000 years.
And there's plenty of X-Men to read too. But we don't do that. We read the Fantastic Four, and that's okay by me. Shane, once again, thank you for joining me this week and talking about four of our favorite heroes. I look forward to doing this again with you next week.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
And we hope you will join us as well, true believers. For Shane Murray, I'm Nate Charles. Until next time, stay fantastic.